Hello, welcome to Longshot Larry's Sports Astrology. Today we're looking at the NBA Final Series. It's currently 2 games apiece between the Golden State Warriors and the Boston Celtics. Started on the 2nd of June. We're going to be looking at quite a few charts here today. The solar and lunar eclipses, which I still think have an effect. Start of Game 1. To represent the teams, we're going to look at the first regular season game, the coaches, Ime Udoka and Steve Kerr, and significant players for each team. I'm going to use Jayson, Tatum for Boston Celtics and Steph Curry for the Golden State Warriors. So I'm going to have a look at the solar eclipses located in each city, Boston and San Francisco. So the solar eclipse occurred on the 30th of April. I still think it'll be in effect for quite a few months. So you can see that it's widely conjunct Uranus and sextile Mars here. If I look at how it lines up to the first regular season game that Boston played, you can see the eclipse is opposing the sun. An eclipse opposite your sun is not helpful long term. Also lines up with Jayson Tatum, Boston Celtics player. You can see the eclipse is sextile Mars, and Mars is applying to his sun here in 12 Pisces. He does have his progress Jupiter has moved from 6 Pisces also in 12 Pisces. You've got Mars conjunct progressed Jupiter conjunct Sun, and it's also trying his node, so he should have a good series. If we look now at the solar eclipse located at San Francisco, you can see Uranus here is pretty close to the MC. Now Uranus doesn't necessarily mean upsets in my experience. It's more to do with excitement, changes in dynamics, big comebacks, that sort of thing. Doesn't necessarily favour the underdog. I should point out that Golden State are favourites to win this series from the beginning. So Uranus is on the MC there. Saturn is 2 degrees away from the descendant, but you will see Uranus and Saturn pop up again in the chart set for the start of the first game. You can see when we look at the first game for Golden State, you can see Uranus is opposing the Sun in this first game chart. So both first game charts have oppositions from this solar eclipse. Which one is going to win out, I don't know. If we look at the Warriors coach Steve Kerr, you can also see he has his Venus, which rules his Libra and Sun, is exactly on the IC. Uranus is applying 1.5 degrees, probably a bit far away. But Venus is sextile his Uranus Pluto natally, which is interesting, and ruling his Libra and Sun. He's also got that Mars conjunct, quite closely conjunct his Saturn. So he lines up very closely with this eclipse. Is that positive or negative? We'll find out in another week or so. Next chart I'm going to look at is the lunar eclipse. Now, set for San Francisco, you see this lunar eclipse, the Sun is opposite the Moon and square Saturn, but it's also, the Sun is sextile Mars and Neptune here, which is exactly on the IC set for San Francisco. Now this should last for about 4 weeks or so to about Game 5 on the 13th of June. How does that line up? Well, with Steph Curry, we've got a timed chart for him. He's a Piscean, his Sun's exactly on the IC here with Mars and Neptune on the IC. Neptune's actually quite strong. It's got a bit of a Jupiter flavour here. He scored 40 odd points, I think, in Game 4, so he should still be firing till Game 5, so that's good for him. This is the start of the first game, Boston away to Golden State. And this one started 9 minutes late. It was just enough time to put Uranus on the descendant here. Now, if you remember in the eclipse, Uranus was on the MC in San Francisco, and Saturn's also very close to the IC. It was on the descendant in the eclipse, so not really sure what that means. I thought it was just interesting. Looking at the Frawley method here, as I mentioned before, Golden State are favourites to win the series before it started. So Saturn is ruling the 4th house. It's close to the IC, so that's one for the underdog. Uranus, as I said, doesn't necessarily mean an upset. It tends to mean a fluctuating game. It rules excitement. It's a bit neutral in that regards. So in this game here, Boston did come back. I think they were way down in the 4th quarter and came steaming home, and the game sort of seesawed. The other thing from the Frawley method here, I've got the Antiska positions on the outer ring. Venus, you can see, is very close to the MC. Antiska of Venus, and it rules the 7th house. So it means the underdogs, Boston, are dominating the favourites here, Golden State, and they did end up winning this game. Now, does this apply for the whole series? Does this mean that Boston win the series as the underdogs? 2 games apiece, it's hard to tell at this point in time, but that's just a theory I'm working on. How do the coaches line up to this? Ime Udoka, only thing I can see really happening in his chart, and I've looked at it quite a lot, progressions, everything, is that Uranus is applying to a square to his Leo sun here at the start of the first game. So I will be squaring his sun during the course of this series of games. Now, is that good or bad? Squares can go either way, so it will be a change in his reputation here from Uranus. Is it good or bad? Is he the winner or the loser? I don't really know. How's Uranus placed in his chart? Here's Uranus here at 7 Scorpio. It is very closely trying his Venus. It is solar data, so you don't know exactly where. So it should be an exciting period. His sun natally is conjunct Saturn. It is quite closely sextile the node, sextile Pluto, but also sextile Mars, potentially sextile his moon. Mars is a quite important planet for him. It is the leading planet in a bowl pattern he has here. So how that pans out, I don't really know. Saturn is opposing his progress Saturn, minor aspect, but that's really all I see for Boston over this series, so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Looking at the Warriors coach Steve Kerr, Uranus is now past an opposition to his Venus, about 30 minutes, and in this game it seemed to be a negative as Boston came back and won. Venus does rule his Libran sun. As I mentioned previously though, his Venus is exactly, well, very closely sextile Uranus and Pluto, so Uranus isn't going to be as bad in opposition as it normally would be, and Uranus is exactly trying his Uranus here. Does that mean long term they can still get the win? We'll have to wait and see. What else has he got going on here? Well, Jupiter is at 4 Aries at the start of this series. It is opposing his sun quite close. Now we don't know exactly solar data, and Jupiter is a little bit weaker than it would normally be here. It's got a bit of a Neptune flavour right at this point in time. Also, Saturn on the IC here is going to turn retrograde shortly after this series start, about 3 or 4 days. And you can see it is closely square his Mars in difficult aspect. Mercury is about to turn direct as well here. So he has quite a few aspects here, mainly oppositions and squares. So it'll be interesting to see how that pans out. He's also got his progress Venus now is down at 17 Capricorn, which rules his Libran sun, and it's trying his progress Pluto, sextile Venus natally, sextile Neptune, Venus conjunct Neptune, so Uranus is going to be forming a grand trine to that as well, so that's a real mixed bag for Steve Kerr. Steph Curry, we've seen how that lunar eclipse is beneficial for him. Start of this game, I can't see Uranus doing much in his chart. It's past a trine to his Mars, 2 degrees, which rules his MC. We've got a time chart here. This Saturn here is semi-square, and it's going to be applying to a semi-square to his Neptune. As he is a Pisces, Neptune rules his Piscean sun, so it's a minor irritation. I couldn't see much for Jayson Tatum going on in this chart. So in summary, I'm interested to see how those eclipses play out. I think that's probably even between Golden State and Boston. That first game does suggest the underdog wins. Now, does it suggest being the start of the series at the underdog, i.e. Boston goes on and wins the series? I really don't know. I'm interested to see how it plays out. Currently 2-2. With Uranus dominant, it does indicate a fluctuating series, so whether it would probably go to game 7, see how that goes. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for watching, and please like, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.